Hello, I'm Leonardo Puglisi. It's Sunday, the 28th of August. You're watching 6 News. Our top stories tonight. More sports stars set to be enlisted by the federal government in support of an Indigenous voice to Parliament after NBA legend Shaquille O'Neal met with the Prime Minister. But will it really be a third tier of government, like some have claimed? Also, more fallout from Ministergate. New reports that even though the swearing-in was valid, Scott Morrison's use of his secret powers to block a gas exploration project may have been unconstitutional and therefore unlawful. Labor on track to win the Victorian state election with a majority, according to a new poll, as one outgoing Liberal MP responds to what he's called an attack from the candidate in his own party vying to replace him. And a battle of the debutantes, Essendon defeats Hawthorn in Melbourne in their first ever AFLW game. But there was an emotional moment for one Hawks player who lost her mother to cancer just a few weeks ago. Good evening. The federal government will recruit sports stars from leagues including the AFL, NRL, as well as basketball and netball players to help support the Indigenous voice to Parliament. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese yesterday met with NBA legend Shaquille O'Neal to discuss the voice, which is set to go to a referendum by the end of this term of government. The Office of the Minister for Indigenous Australians telling 6 News they want to make sure the process is right and the details are correct. Reporter Austin Pollock has the details.
NBA legend Shaquille O'Neal has joined Prime Minister Anthony Albanese in calling for constitutional recognition of Indigenous Australians. Mr Albanese said the federal government will seek the support from other sporting stars to spread the referendum message throughout the community, having started in discussions with the AFL, NRL, basketball and netball sports codes. The PM also said that the world is watching this ongoing debate.
Today we've met with Mr Shaquille O'Neal, talking with him about the voice to Parliament. He's trying to mobilise support for the voice to Parliament by talking with sporting figures.
Hello, Australia. Nice to see you.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Nice to see you. I'm here in your country. Whatever you need from me, you just let me know.
Fantastic.
Appreciate
Thank
you
you.
guys. Congratulations to you guys. And everyone knows Shaq loves Australia.
And we want to engage with people who can connect with young people in particular, but with all sections of our society. Shaq has that record to a constitutionally recognised voice to Parliament, and recognising that Australian history didn't begin in 1788. We should be proud of the fact that Australia is the land where we share our great continent and nation with the oldest continuous civilisation on earth. And Shaq has agreed to do some vids and to have a chat about the importance of bringing people together. Finally, it is about how we see ourselves, but it's also about how Australia is seen in the world. Australia will be seen more positively when we demonstrate our maturity as a nation.
The basketball legend has said he will pledge his support to help create awareness for constitutional recognition of Indigenous Australians. Anthony Albanese has said that Shaq in the United States has done a lot about social justice and lifting people up who are marginalised. The Indigenous voice to Parliament would provide advice to the Parliament on policies and projects that impact their lives. The proposal hasn't come without its critics, with some saying that it would be a third tier of government. However, the Minister for Indigenous Australians' office has told 6 News that the voice to Parliament is about governments listening to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and taking into account their lived experiences in order to develop policies and programs that are more effective. As the Prime Minister said in his speech at the Garma Festival, it will be an unflinching source of advice and accountability, not a third chamber, not a rolling veto, not a blank cheque. But whether or not Shaq's appearance will be enough to sway voters remains to be seen.
And there's a lot of claims about the voice going around online right now. Whether they're true or not, we don't know. But of course, we're in the infancy stages of the voice. 6 News contributor Stuart Jeffrey wrote a fact check on some of those claims. He's with me now. Stuart, good to catch up. There have been some claims the voice would undermine the principle of one man, one vote, based on what we've heard, even though we are really still in a development stage now. Is that really what it would do?
Look, we are not really, from what I've seen of it so far. Again, it is only a draft provision. It's only 3 sentences in the provision. It's not fully fleshed out yet. But from what we've got so far, because it's an advisory body, it's not really one. It doesn't really undermine democracy because it doesn't have any power really. It's just an advisory body.
And we've also heard from many people, including Pauline Hanson, that this would create a third tier of government. But we've already got a third tier, don't we?
Yes, we do. Local, state, federal.
So let's presume she means third chamber, like how the House of Reps is the first, the Senate is the second. Again, is that really what it could do here?
Well, no. So Section 50 of the Constitution allows each house to set its own rules for operations, procedures, and things like that. But the provisions we have from Albanese right now say that the two houses can set the rules of the voice, which means that it's separate to the two houses of parliament. So it's not really a third house of parliament. If it was, it would be able to set its own rules and powers.
And so we've actually got a response from the government on this. Similarly to us, they don't have all the specifics yet, but what did they tell us?
Yeah, well, the government responded and said that it basically, we don't have enough details at this point in time. How the voting will work to appoint people to the voice is currently, I believe, that a few proposals being looked at, including direct democracy, but other options as well out there. And they haven't even determined that yet. Because, so again, it is still probably 2 years away at best. So to make claims that this is what it will do, when even the government doesn't know what it's going to do, is just absurd to say we know for sure that it will be undemocratic.
And again, your full fact check is on our website right now, SIXNewsAU.com. Stuart Jeffrey, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Well, the results from this year's NAPLAN test will be published in November, a delay after it was supposed to come out earlier this week. Low participation as a result of COVID, I should say, is being cited as the main reason, with more than 500,000 students not completing literacy and numeracy tests. 15% of Year 9 students, that's me, failed to take part this year. The flu and flooding also being blamed as reasons for the low turnout. The fallout from Ministergate tonight continues even after it was confirmed former Prime Minister Scott Morrison's appointments to 5 different portfolios while he was PM was legal. New reports indicate Morrison's use of his secret powers in the resources portfolio to block a gas exploration project may have been unconstitutional and therefore unlawful, and calls for a censure motion against the now Liberal backbencher are also ramping up. Political reporter Roman Kikinen has more.
The federal government has appointed former High Court Justice leader Virginia Bell to a formal inquiry into Scott Morrison's secret ministry saga. He won't be required to give evidence at the inquiry,
which is not about the politics, but about how this happened.
Scott Morrison secretly swore himself into 5 different portfolios, including health, finances, resources, home affairs and treasury between 2020 and 2021. The inquiry will be handed down to the Prime Minister by the 25th of November, and in a statement the Prime Minister said, quote, "The government is holding the inquiry to restore and strengthen public trust in our Australian democracy, and all past 4 Prime Ministers have all condemned Mr Morrison's actions."
This is one of the most appalling things I've ever heard.
I'm just not going to defend what was done.
I don't think you should have done that. I don't think there was any need to do it, and I wouldn't have.
Mr Albanese's priorities are all about the past. He is obsessed and consumed by the politics of the past.
A problem of the present is statistics released by the Treasury showing thousands of Australians off work each day with long COVID. In June alone, there were 259,000 people off work, 31,000 had long COVID. The proportion of Aussies on sick leave with long COVID skyrocketed from 2.3% in January to 12% in June.
A group called North Sydney's Independent, which backed now MP Kylie Tink at the federal election, has today held its campaign launch for 3 state electorates, Lane Cove, North Shore and Willoughby. They're taking on the Liberal-held seats and are looking to get the right candidate for the March 2023 state election. If the Perrottet government lost the election, it would mean there would be no state and territory with a Liberal National Coalition government, and Labor would be in government everywhere on the mainland. At least 3 people have died after a 2-vehicle crash in southern Tasmania overnight. Police say a Toyota Corolla was travelling north along the South Arm Highway when the driver lost control of the vehicle and veered onto the wrong side of the road, crashing into a southbound Volkswagen. The driver of the Corolla as well as 2 passengers died, while those in the Volkswagen were taken to hospital in a serious but stable condition. 2022 shaping up as the state's worst death toll in more than a decade on the roads, with Towards Zero action plans seeing the state government commit $75 million across 42 initiatives based on crash data and statistics. Labor is on track to win the Victorian state election in November with a majority, according to the latest news poll, which predicts Daniel Andrews will remain Premier for another 4 years. It comes as outgoing Liberal MP Tim Smith responds to what he's called an attack from the Liberal candidate vying to replace him in a battle all playing out on social media. Reporter Lincoln Holmes has more.
As the Victorian election draws closer tonight, a new poll is revealing the result we could see. Labor returned with a majority and Daniel Andrews in power for at least another 4 years. According to Newspoll, Labor holds 56 to 44% lead over the coalition on a 2-party preferred basis. That's down 2% from the last poll in November 2021. The party's primary vote is at 41%, down 3, while the Premier has a high approval rating too. Only 34% of people think Liberal leader Matthew Guy is the better Premier, with a net satisfaction rate of -17%. That's the lowest he's ever recorded in Newspoll. The Greens have increased their primary vote to 13% and are a chance to pick up 3 seats, but that still might keep them firmly on the crossbench, with the numbers indicating Labor will still have enough in the lower house to form a majority government and won't have to enter any negotiations with other parties. Senior Liberal sources have told The Australian that no one was expecting a coalition majority, and the Labor minority may be their best outcome. While Labor may lose 14 seats, a number of them could go to minor parties and independents, instead of the Liberals or the Nationals. The coalition is at risk of losing seats themselves, including the seat of Q currently held by outgoing Liberal MP Tim Smith. The group Q Independents has announced Sophie Tawney as their candidate, while the Liberals will be running Jess Wilson. Smith has taken to social media to claim Wilson attacked him, mentioning she's a former Josh Frydenberg staffer, while also posting a picture of her campaigning for him. One Nation has also confirmed they'll run in the election, one of many right-wing parties looking to win seats. Lincoln Holmes, 6 News.
Prisoners at the Brisbane Correctional Centre have been evacuated to an exercise yard after a fire broke out in a section of the jail. It's believed the fire started in a cell unit in the secure section. According to the Courier Mail, 6 fire crews were dispatched, but the blaze was extinguished by corrections staff before they got there. The fire did not cause serious damage. No injuries were reported. Overseas, Moderna will sue Pfizer and its partner BioNTech for patent infringement in the development of the first COVID vaccine approved in the United States. Moderna is alleging Pfizer copied technology they developed several years before the pandemic. US correspondent Jackson Gosnell has the latest developments.
Leo, you may remember months ago here in the U.S., people were trying really hard to get vaccines, whether that be Moderna, Pfizer, as well as Johnson & Johnson. Well, now people are trying to get back at those vaccine companies, specifically their competitors. Moderna has filed a lawsuit against Pfizer saying they copied their vaccine patent. They say that they have infringed upon that patent by copying and reproducing the different kinds of ways that Moderna founded technologies in mRNA vaccines. Moderna alleges they spent billions of dollars developing technologies as well as systems to create a vaccination, while they say Pfizer and BioNTech just copied them. Now, Pfizer did not respond to a request for comment and says they have not been given the lawsuit yet. BioNTech has also not responded. You may have heard the Pfizer vaccine called the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. That's because those two work together on it. Pfizer is based here in the U.S. while BioNTech is not here in the U.S. But it is worth noting that these companies are really going at it with each other. And, you know, it's kind of interesting to see how both of them developed a vaccination in record time, and how they both have mRNA technologies that are very, very similar, in which case obviously now Moderna says Pfizer and BioNTech copied. We'll see how this plays out in court. Certainly a lot of legal battles ahead to come as a result of this, and I'll be sure to keep you posted right here. And just another point about these patent infringements that Moderna alleges, these patents go all the way back to several years ago. According to a report, these Moderna patents were filed between 2010 and 2016, talking about Moderna's foundational mRNA technology. And a lot of people had talked about before, oh, they've been kind of waiting for a coronavirus to happen. That's not necessarily the case. This technology in vaccines, as you know, has been around for years. As I just mentioned, 2010 was some of the beginning stages of developing this technology. So at any rate, a lot of information coming out of this, confirming some news that we've been hearing a lot lately about this potentially happening. So I'll continue to stay on top of the latest for you, but for now, reporting in the U.S., I'm Jackson Gosnell. Back to you.
Several people are dead after a truck rolled into a street party in Netherlands South. Broken picnic tables could be seen at the scene of the crash, where at least 2 people are reported dead, although current numbers are unclear. Local media reports the uninjured truck driver has been arrested and taken into custody. Investigations are ongoing. An airstrike on a children's playground has killed 7 people in Ethiopia. It happened in the country's Tigray region after a 4-month ceasefire officially ended, which saw fighting break out between the federal government and Tigrayan forces. The government has denied that any civilians were killed, but at least 3 children are reported among the dead. The death toll from floods in Pakistan is now approaching 1,000. Thousands more have been displaced as a result of the monsoon flooding, which began back in June. Authorities tonight asking for international assistance, with around 1,500 people also injured. Changing pace now, on Essendon's claimed victory in their first ever AFLW game at Marvel Stadium in Melbourne, defeating Hawthorn, who were also playing their first game. The match was fairly even until the last quarter, when the Bombers ran away with the game to win 7-11-53 to 4-3-27. Sophie Lockie kicked the Hawks' first ever goal after losing her mother to cancer just a few weeks ago. Now, those two teams weren't the only ones on debut. Sydney lost by 29 points in their first match against St Kilda, while Port Adelaide, also on debut, were defeated by West Coast. As a result of this season's expansion, all 18 AFL clubs now have women's sides as well, with many players in the 4 new teams coming from the VFLW, which also sees Darebin, Port Melbourne, the Southern Saints and Williamstown compete. Taking a look at what's making news on SIXNewsAU.com right now, and a new edition of Commonwealth Knowledge is out looking at cultural fishing rights. Now, it was recently discovered the New South Wales government has failed to enact legislation passed back in 2009, which would decriminalise Aboriginal cultural fishing. Also, an exclusive former 7:30 anchor Lee Sale says she felt her job was completely pointless as politicians dodged her questions at the height of the pandemic. 2 months after stepping down as anchor of the ABC program, she's spoken candidly about her decision to resign at an event hosted by Griffith University and Home of the Arts. Great exclusive from Connor F4K, check that out. And on Spin Check, the Conservative Party of Canada is still looking for a new leader 6 months after Erin O'Toole was removed from the position by the party's caucus by a vote of 73 to 45. Don't forget to check out our newsletter, 6 News Now, more original reporting. Need to do so on our website, SIXNewsAU.com. Don't know what's going on with the light there. For now, though, here's Melly and Ivan with a look at what's coming up later tonight. Let's fix that on WAMN News.
Thanks, Leo. Tonight on WAMN News, calls for transparency and accountability in Australia's visa process as our country scrambles to fill jobs in key sectors. An exclusive interview coming up.
A missed opportunity to treat Aishwarya Ashwath. The coronial inquest begins into the 7-year-old girl's tragic death.
An inquiry announced into former Prime Minister Scott Morrison's secret power grab.
A bundle of joy. Perth welcomes a litter of guide dog puppies. And later, Dr. Andrew Miller's comment. Join us tonight on the WMN News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Well, I've been left in the dark here. If you'd like to support our light fund, go to our Patreon, patreon.com/SIXNewsAU. Let's carry on here, though. Thanks to both Ivan and Melly. They're now taking a look at tomorrow's... There goes the other light. Now they're taking a look at tomorrow's weather forecast right across the country. Brisbane showers, 23 degrees. Also showers in Sydney, 18. Rain in Canberra as well, 14. Thunderstorms, 17 in Melbourne. Actually warmer and drier in Hobart for once, 19 degrees there. Adelaide wet weather also expected, 14. 26 in Alice Springs, 17 and sunny in Perth. And in Darwin, a warm top of 33. Before we go tonight, recapping the top story here on 6 News this hour, and the federal government will recruit sports stars from leagues including the AFL, NRL, as well as basketball and netball players to help support the Indigenous voice to Parliament. The Office of the Minister for Indigenous Australians telling 6 News they want to make sure that they get the process right, and the process won't be rushed. And that is 6 News for this Sunday evening. You can stay up to date with all the latest headlines by heading to our website, 6newsau.com, and by following us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Lit. Just search 6newsau to find us. Help keep us independent as well, and keep our lights on by donating just $4 a month and receive exclusive benefits. Patreon.com/6newsau. I'm Leonardo, Puglisi. MC Company. Good night. There it goes. Good night.